Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Bonbosher, and today I want to talk about the grain delay in Ableton and creating some harmonic textures with it. This is just a technique per se. This isn't going to be so much a tutorial on what the grain delay does. For that, I highly recommend going to You Suck at Producing, the channel, and DJ Underbelly's tutorial on grain delay is incredible. It gives you a very, very good foundation of where to start and what it does. And once you have that, you can take it apart and make it whatever you want. It's really, really informative. So go check that out first. This is just going to be more about a technique that we can utilize to give more texture to anything, any loop, chords, whatever. It doesn't matter. The other thing is that there's no right or wrong way to do this. Whatever works for you is what works best, but it's just a cool technique to use to, again, really just get a lot of depth and texture. So, as you can hear, I have a few things going on. I have two grain delays on two separate audio channels here, one for the break loop and then one for the string stab there. Both are somewhat similar and not all at the same time. So, what we're going to do, we're going to start from scratch. So I'm going to go in my rack here, and I'm just going to delete all the effects. I'm going to keep the loop, and I'm going to loop the loop, and then that way we won't have to do anything like building a loop from scratch or anything. It's more about just applying the effect. So let's take a listen to the dry loop real quick of the breaks. So, as you can hear, pretty dry, pretty boring. I pitched it down a bit just to give a little more flavor. But what we're going to do is we're going to throw an audio effect rack in the audio channel here. And it's incredible. I love the audio effect rack. Click to show the macro and the chains. We're not going to be using the macro controls, but you definitely can. I definitely recommend doing it. It gives a lot more ease of use when you chain a lot, or when you map a lot of different things to one macro. It gives a lot more versatility, if you will. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to create a chain. So we have the one signal, and then we're going to create another chain. Now, if I were to play it out, it's just going to sound double loud. It's just on top of itself, these two chains. And but we're going to use the second chain to apply that grain delay underneath it to give it that texture. So let's go to our grain delay here. Click and drag it into the second chain. And again, I really want to stress that you should go check out that tutorial by DJ Underbelly. But we'll kind of delve into what we're doing. But again, really want to go there and check that out first. So what I did here for the break loop primarily is we first set the pitch to -7 semitones. So what that does is that it will go down a perfect fifth every time the delay is applied. So you'll get the dry signal, and then you'll get the next delay signal -7 semitones, and then from that -7 semitones, and it'll go depending on how much feedback you give it. So that's completely up to you. There's no right or wrong way to do that there. So it was at -7 for a perfect fifth going down. And then I set the feedback to about 33%. So let's see, 33. Perfect. The dry wet I kept at 100. And the reason is I'm using it in a completely separate chain. Now, if I was just using the one signal, you can set it to 50-50. And then that way you have your dry signal, and then you also have, the delayed signal. But this way, with the audio effect rack, you can have both, and you can truly customize it to how you want. And that's why I wanted to stress this, a little bit more. Now, when it comes to the beat division, I do have it at 2 steps of delay synced. You can always click the time and give it even more like a granular texture on top of itself if you want. But for now, we're just going to do sync. So it's da-da-da-da-da-da, 2 steps. Now, the frequency we're going to reduce. So we're going to make the grains in the grain delay bigger and not so fine. So we're going to go to about 10.5. So we'll actually, no, we'll hold control. Boom. Okay. Now, if you were to go down to 1 hertz, was it? Yeah, 1? Yeah, 1 hertz. It makes the grains much larger and individual, and you can hear them more succinctly. When you start turning up the hertz and the frequency, obviously you're going faster and they start to melt together more, but that's what we kind of want here. So if we go to about 10.5, we're good there. I kept the spray at 0 and the random pitch at 0, but you can always experiment with that. It's not going to sound exactly like what you heard in the loop just because I had EQ and some auto panning going on. But then what I also did is I turned down this chain here to -9 decibels because we don't want it too loud, overpowering the actual signal, the dry signal. So this is what it sounds like with the 2 audio chains, 1 dry and then 1 second, -9 decibels with a grain delay for some nice harmonic texture. Now let's take a listen to just the dry chain itself. And then the wet chain itself. And you can hear that little tail end there. You'd get more with the feedback if you did more, but you don't have to. So let's do it again, and I'll do a dry-wet comparison type thing here. So you can hear that subtle harmonic texture underneath the loop, and it really just gives a whole new layer of depth to the sound. And you can use that obviously for any loop, anything at all. That's just, one way of doing it with a kind of like a 2-step delay. Now let's go to the string sample here. This one's not so much of a texture as it is just a cool little feedback loop. Not really a feedback loop, but it goes down a perfect fifth once again, and then but it's harmonic because it's a an actual note instead of just a drum loop per se. So let's see here. Let's go delete everything here. Go to our audio effect rack, bring it into the channel, show your macros and your chains. You don't have to show your macros, but again, highly recommend mapping things because mapping is awesome. But anyway, we're going to create a chain, create another chain. Going to throw a grain delay on here. And again, it's not going to be exactly like what you heard in the original loop just because I deleted all the other post-processing effects. But on this grain delay, I set the frequency to about 12 hertz. So you can always hold control, get that specific number. And the pitch was -7 once again. And then the dry wet was 100. The feedback was at about 40. Now, I set the sync to about 4 steps here. And I actually set the beat offset percentage about 3.12%. I'll just do 3%-ish. Yeah, 1.2. That's just to give it like a somewhat off-kilter swing. And so let's just take a listen. Before we do that, though, let's set this to about right here, the second chain's volume, to -4 decibels. And I think that'll be a little bit better. Okay, so let's listen to the just one signal. Let's solo out the grain delay, and let's hear what it sounds like. Okay, so let's take a listen to the dry signal. Pretty basic, pretty not much going on. But let's listen to both at the same time on top of themselves. Give it that depth. And as you can hear, the feedback feeds into itself and it keeps going down in pitch, which is really cool. And it can create, harmonic delays within a scale, especially with like a string note like this. I mean, not necessarily a string, but like a note that's actually being played. So that's all I really wanted to talk about today, was just applying the grain delay for some really nice harmonic textures on things. And be sure to go check out DJ Underbelly's tutorial. Can't stress that enough. And it's very informative. And once you get that down, it's amazing what you can do with this device. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. And if this video helped you out, please give it a like so we can get the information out for people. And subscribe if you want more tutorials. And we'll be getting more out for you. So hope you have a good rest of your day. We'll see you next time.